Dear friends, how often do you judge others? Most of us can be quite judgmental whether or not we admit it. I have been aware of my own judgmental tendency for much of my life. While it does seem to ebb and flow based on my own level of confidence, inner peace, and fulfillment, I have noticed that it can be both pervasive and problematic for us and for others too. Quite often, we are very quick to pass judgments on others and often not knowing the whole truth. We hear half of the things about someone and immediately we plunge into action to make a judgment for a person and thus ruining a person's life. A young couple moved into a new house. The next morning, while they were eating breakfast, the young woman saw her neighbor hanging the clothes outside. The laundry is not very clean. She does not know how to wash correctly. Perhaps she needs better detergent. Her husband looked on, remaining silent. Every time her neighbor hung her washing out to dry, the young woman made the same comments. A month later, the young woman was surprised to see a nice clean washed clothes hanging on the line and said to her husband, "Look, she finally learned how to wash correctly. I wonder who taught her this." The husband replied, "I got up early this morning and cleaned our windows." And so it is with our life, my dear friends. We see when we're watching others depends on the clarity of the window through which we look. Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? The Bible, Matthew chapter 7, verses 3 to 5. So don't be too quick to judge others, especially if your perspective of life is clouded by anger, jealousy, negativity, revenge, arrogance, or unfulfilled desires. In other words, a famous motivational speaker and psychologist, Wayne Dyer, judging a person does not define who they are, it defines who you are. There can actually be some gifts and growth wrapped up in our own judgments if we are willing to do the internal work necessary, take responsibility in our own projections. Being judgmental can cause a great deal of pain, stress, and conflict in our lives and relationships. But if we are conscious about it, we can actually use our judgments as access to deeper connections with others and personal transformation within ourselves. It is crucial to distinguish between making value judgments and being judgmental. Value judgments reflect our discernment based on our own values and priorities. We constantly make value judgments in our daily lives, deciding what to eat, where to go, what to engage with, and how to spend our time. Embracing change and diversity while making value judgments is vital for our well-being, personal growth, empowerment, and overall vitality. Being judgmental, on the other hand, has to do with us thinking that our opinion and values are right and judging others as bad or wrong. Being judgmental has to do with us arrogantly thinking that we are better than others. The question is not whether judging people is good or bad. The deeper issue is that when we judge others, we hurt them and ourselves in the process. Why do we judge others? Firstly, we judge others as a natural cognitive process influenced by social norms, personal experiences, and psychological biases. It often stems from a need to assess threats, establish social hierarchies, or reinforce our own beliefs and values. Judgment can serve a shortcut for the understanding and navigating a person's life, complex social environments. There are some of the common and specific reasons that often lead us down the path of judgmentalness. Secondly, competitiveness. We compete with others and want to win, or at least not let them win. When we don't win, or we feel inferior or envious, we tend to judge them, make them wrong, or try to find fault in them. In other words, we try to bring them down to our level so we can feel better about ourselves. Thirdly, my dear friends, projection. We project our stuff onto other people. As the late American self help author, coach, lecturer, and teacher Debbie Ford said, "Whatever you can't own, you owns you." In other words, we have a hard time with aspects and qualities in other people that we have not accepted within ourselves. For example, if we have not accepted our own arrogance, pride, suspicion, we will notice lots of arrogant people around us and have a very hard time with them. Fourthly, life is a mirror. Similar to projection, everything we see, experience, and notice about other people is a mirror back to us. The light and the dark. We erroneously think it's about them and miss the gift of awareness it is for us. We will always bump up against stuff in others and in life that we need to deal with in ourselves. But it is often much easier to judge than it is to deal. Fifthly, dear friends, judging people can be a gift. Judging people can be a gift when it prompts self reflection and growth. Constructive judgment can highlight areas for improvement, inspire empathy, and foster deeper understanding of ourselves and others. It serves as a tool for personal development and building healthier relationships, ultimately leading to greater self awareness and fulfillment. What are some of the gifts that can come from our judgments of others? Self awareness. Our judgments offer valuable insights, revealing areas in ourselves where we can nurture love, acceptance, and reconciliation, compassion for others. They illuminate opportunities for personal growth, expansion, and release, paving the way for forgiveness and authentic confidence. Secondly, expanded compassion. When you are being judgmental, it can remind us about the importance of compassion for ourselves and others. The things we judge in others, which are always things we judge in ourselves, consciously or unconsciously, are simply things we don't have much compassion for. We can use our judgments as opportunities to expand our capacity for compassion, one of the most powerful emotions we can express and experience in our life. Finally, dear friends, dealing with our judgments in a vulnerable, honest, and responsible way can actually bring us closer to the people in our lives and can create deeper intimacy. When we confront our judgments and other aspects of our shadow, we free ourselves from barriers to intimacy, vulnerability, and closeness with others. This demands courage and dedication. Yet, engaging authentically at this level can profoundly transform our relationships for better. In the words of Gordon Brown, former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, "I hate prejudice, discrimination, and snobbishness of any kind. It always reflects on the person judging and not the person being judged. Everyone should be treated equally." There is nothing wrong with us for being judgmental. It is a normal aspect of being human. And while judgments can and do cause a great deal of difficulty and pain in our lives and relationships, especially if we stay unconscious about them as we wake up and take responsibility for them, we can use our own judgmental tendency to actually create the kind of life and the kinds of relationship we truly want. Dear friends, please like the video, share it with your family and friends, and do subscribe to it.